Welcome to RC Tech. Researchers at Facebook Research have published an exciting paper titled Unsupervised Translation of Programming Languages. They have developed an AI model called as Transcoder. This AI model is capable of translating programs from a programming language like C++ to Java or Python and also translate back from these languages to C++. Similarly, it can translate programs between Java and Python. Let us review this paper in this video. This is Ritesh Srinivasan, and if you are new here and like the content, please subscribe to the channel. I have put links in the description to the paper and advanced concepts described in the paper. Let's get started. Let us look at the need for an unsupervised programming language translator. A transcompiler, also known as a source-to-source translator, is a system that converts source code from a high-level programming language such as C++ or Python to another. In this example, I have shown a C++ program which is getting converted to a Python program via the transcompiler. Transcompilers are primarily used for interoperability and to port code bases written in obsolete or depreciated programming languages like COBOL or Python 2 into newer programming languages like C++ or Python 3. So the transcompiler makes use of handcrafted rewrite rules applied to the source code abstract syntax tree. The resulting translations often lack readability, they fail to respect the target language conventions, and a lot of manual modifications are required in order to work properly. The overall translation process is also time consuming, requires expertise in both the source and target languages. So the code translation projects become expensive. For instance, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia spent around $750 million and 5 years of work to convert its platform from COBOL to Java. The main contributions of this research paper is that they introduce a new approach to translate functions from a programming language to another that is purely based on a monolingual source code. Their model, called as Transcoder, successfully manages to grasp complex patterns specific to each language and to translate them to other languages. It is a fully unsupervised method and it can outperform commercial systems that leverage rule-based methods and advanced programming knowledge. They also build and release a validation and a test set composed of 852 parallel functions in 3 programming languages along with unit tests to evaluate the correctness of generated translations. They also say that they will make their code and pre-trained models publicly available. I'm waiting for their code and pre-trained models to be publicly available to further test the system. Now let us look at the transcoder model. For the transcoder model, they consider a sequence to sequence model with attention composed of an encoder and a decoder with a transformer architecture. They use a single shared model for all programming languages. They train it using the 3 principles of unsupervised machine translation, namely initialization, language modeling, and back translation. Let us look at the first principle of unsupervised language translation in the context of the transcoder model. So the first principle here initializes the transcoder model with cross-lingual masked language model pre-training. For the masked language modeling objective, at each iteration they consider an input stream of the source code sequences and they randomly mask out some of the tokens and train the transcoder to predict the masked tokens based on their context. So they alternate between streams of batches of different languages. This allows the model to create high quality cross-lingual sequence representations. As a result, pieces of code that expresses the same instructions are mapped to the same representation irrespective of the programming languages. An example is shown over here. If you look at the input code, certain tokens are masked over here. For example, if int I, and this is given as input to the cross lingual masked language model. and the output is the recovered masks. So here you can see that it has correctly recovered the masked tokens if, int and I. Now let us look at the second principle of unsupervised language translation in the context of the transcoder model. So it is modeling the language. Here they initialize the encoder and decoder of the sequence to sequence model with the cross language model pre-trained in the previous step. This initialization is straightforward for the encoder as it shares the same architecture as the cross language model. The transformer decoder, however, has extra parameters related to the source attention mechanism. So they initialize these parameters randomly. So the cross language model pre-training allows the sequence to sequence model to generate high quality representation of the input sequences. However, the decoder lacks the capacity to translate it as it has been never trained to decode a sequence based on source representation. To address this issue, they train the model to encode and decode sequences with the denoising autoencoding objective. So the denoising autoencoding objective operates like a supervised machine translation algorithm where the model is trained to predict a sequence of tokens given a corrupted version of the sequence. To corrupt a sequence, they use a noise model. Namely, what they do is that they randomly mask, remove and shuffle the input tokens. The first symbol given as input to the decoder is a special token indicating the output programming language. So what they do is at test time, a Python sequence can be encoded by the model and decoded using the C++ start symbol to generate a C++ translation. The quality of the C++ translation will depend on the cross-linguality of the model. If the Python function and the valid C++ translation are mapped to the same latent representation by the encoder, then the decoder will be able to successfully generate this C++ translation. So this denoising autoencoder objective also trains the language modeling aspect of the model. The decoder is always trained to generate a valid function even when the encoder output is noisy. Moreover, it also trains the encoder to be robust to input noise, which is helpful in the context of back translation where the model is trained with noisy input sequences. So the example is shown over here. So you have an input code which is corrupted over here. So you can see the masks placed over here, and it is given to a translation model which translates from Java to Java, and it is able to recover the code properly. The last step of the transcoder model is back translation. In practice, cross-lingual modeling, pre-training and denoising autoencoding alone are enough to generate translation. But the quality of these translations tend to be low as the model is never trained to do what it is expected to do at test time. That is to translate functions from one language to another. To address this issue, they used back translation, which is one of the most effective methods to leverage monolingual data in a weakly supervised scenario. In the unsupervised setting, a source to target model is coupled with a backward target to source model trained in parallel. The target to source model is used to translate target sequences into the source language, producing noisy source sequence corresponding to the ground truth target sequences. The source to target model is then trained in a weakly supervised manner to reconstruct the target sequences from the noisy sequences generated by the target to source model, and vice versa. The two models are trained in parallel until they converge. So they have shown an example over here where they have taken a Python code. They have a translation model which translates from Python to C++. So you get this noisy C++ translation, which is fed as an input to the C++ to Python model, right? And this model generates the Python code. And so now you have the reference over here against which you can compare and train this entire both these models in parallel. So that is how this is achieved. Kind of a weak supervised learning is achieved over here to translate from one language to the other language. So as and when this model improves in the training process, you have better Python to C++ translations over here, and vice versa. Let us look at the training details. They use a transformer with 6 layers, 8 attention heads, and a set the dimensionality of the model 2024. They use a single encoder and a single decoder for all programming languages. During XLM training, they alternate between batches of C++, Java, and Python composed of 32 sequences of source code, each of 512 tokens. At training time, they alternate between the denoising, auto-encoding, and back translation objectives and use batches of around 6000 tokens. They optimize the transcoder with the Adam optimizer with the learning rate of 10 to the power of -4 and use the same learning rate scheduler as described in Vaswani et al. They implement their models in PyTorch and train them on 32 V100 GPUs. They use float 16 operations to speed up training and to reduce the memory usage of the models. Let us look at the training data used in this paper. They use the GitHub public dataset available on Google BigQuery. This dataset has more than 2.8 million open source GitHub repositories. They filter the projects whose license explicitly permits the redistribution of parts of the project, and they select the C++, Java, and Python files within these projects. They perform translation at a function level. So they pre-train transcoder on all source code available and train the denoising, auto-encoding, and back translation objectives only on functions. So if you look at the statistics of the GitHub dataset, the total size of the repositories of C++, Java, and Python are close to 168 GB, 352 GB, 224 GB. Total number of files are in millions. So if you look at the functions, then you will see that there are close to 120 million functions in C++, 402 million functions in Java, and 217 million functions in Python. Let us look at how they have pre-processed the dataset. So they have used the JavaLang tokenizer for the Java programs to convert the Java program to tokens. They have used the tokenizer of the standard library of Python for actually tokenization of Python programs. Similarly, they have used the CLang tokenizer for C++. These tokenizers ensure that meaningless modifications in the code, for example, adding extra new lines or spaces, do not have any impact on the tokenized sequences. So they have shown an example over here where we have two similar Python functions, both have the same functionality, but in the second function you see there is a new line over here, but since they use the same tokenizer of the standard library for Python, we get a similar tokenization. And in Python programming language, indentation is meaningful. So indented blocks are actually surrounded by indent and de-indent tokens over here. Let us look at how they have evaluated the programming language translations. They have used Geeks for Geeks, which is an online platform with computer science and programming articles. Geeks for Geeks gathers many coding problems and presents solutions in several programming languages. From these solutions, they extract a set of parallel functions in C++, Java, and Python to create their validation and test sets. So the functions not only return the same output but also compute the result with the similar algorithm. For example, they have shown a program over here in C++, Java, and Python. All three programs perform the same functionality to check whether an integer represented by a string is divisible by the number 13. They train and evaluate their models on functions. So let us look at how functions are extracted. So they differentiate between class functions and standalone functions. By standalone functions, they refer to functions that can be used without instantiating a class. In C++ and Python, this corresponds to static methods of classes and functions outside classes. In Java, it only corresponds to static methods. They use programs in Geeks for Geeks. So in Geeks for Geeks, solutions are implemented with standalone functions, and their evaluation protocol only involves these functions. So in C++ and Python, 50% of the functions are standalone functions. In Java, standalone functions only represent 15% of the dataset. They try to train their model on standalone functions only and observed better result than when training on all functions. Thus, all the results in this work are given for models pre-trained on all available data and trained only on standalone functions. For evaluation, they have actually written unit tests for all the functions in the validation and test sets. They report the number of functions with unit tests for C++, Java and Python for the validation and test sets. They also show the average number of tokens per function. A unit test checks whether a generated function is semantically equivalent to its reference. For each function, they have 10 unit tests, each testing it on a different input. As a result, the number of functions with unit tests per language gives the size of the validation and test sets of each pair of languages. For instance, they have a 231 C++ functions with unit tests for the validation set, which means that they have a validation set of 231 functions for Java to C++ and Python to C++. Similarly, they have a validation set of 234 unit tests for any translation from C++ or Python into Java. Similarly, they have 237 unit tests for any translation from C++ or Java into Python. Similarly, they have 466 unit tests for any translations from Java or Python into C++ in the test set. The average number of tokens per functions is also shown over here. Let us look at the evaluation metrics. Blue score is typically used to evaluate the quality of translations. So basically the quality of generated functions on the relative overlap between the tokens in the translation and in the reference. Another simple metric is to compute the reference match, the percentage of translations that perfectly match the ground truth reference. Limitation of these metrics is that they do not take into account the syntactic correctness of generations. Two programs with small syntactic discrepancies will have a high blue score, while they could lead to a very different compilation and computation outputs. Conversely, semantically equivalent programs with different implementations will have low blue scores. So they introduce a new metric, the computational accuracy, which evaluates whether the hypothesis function generates the same output as the reference when given the same inputs. They do this by having unit tests run with similar set of inputs on the translated function as the input reference function, and if the results match, they compute the computational accuracy. So at inference time, transcoder can generate multiple translations using beam search decoding on the decoder. So they report two set of results for the computational accuracy metric. One is beam n, the percentage of functions with at least one correct translation in the beam, and beam n minus top 1, the percentage of functions where the hypothesis in the beam with the highest log probability is a correct translation. So they select the best model using greedy decoding, that is beam 1 for speed efficiency. Let us look at the results reported in the paper. So the results of the transcoder on the test set with greedy decoding is shown over here. So if you look at the reference match scores, they are very low. But if you look at the reference match score versus the computational accuracy, you see that even though in the C++ to Java, the reference match score is only 3.1, but 60.9 percentage of functions passed the unit tests with respect to the reference. And again, if you look at the correlation between BLEU scores and computational accuracy, you don't really see any correlation over here. Now let us look at the results when they compared the results of transcoder with two existing approaches for baselines. So the first one is J2Py, which is a framework that translates from Java to Python. Then there is a commercial solution from Tangible Software Solutions, which translates from C++ to Java. Both these systems rely on rewrite rules manually built using expert knowledge. Now if you look at the results over here, for the baseline for C++ to Java, you have 61%. And if you look at the results over here, the transcoder Beam25 has a result of 74.8% on the computational accuracy. Similarly, in the Java to Python conversion, you see that the baseline is 38.3%, whereas the transcoder Beam25 has given a result of 68.7%, which is a significant improvement over the baseline. And the best part is that this is done in a fully unsupervised manner. Let us look at output over here. So here we have this Python function. We also have this unsupervised C++ translation. So if you look at this translation over here, the transcoder successfully translates the Python input function sum of k sub array into C++. The transcoder is able to infer the types of arguments of the variables and the return type as well. The model is able to map the Python DQ container to the C++ implementation of DQ and uses the associated front, back, pop back and push back methods to retrieve and insert elements into the DQ instead of the Python square brackets, pop and append methods. Moreover, it converts the Python for loop and range in a very accurate way. Another interesting thing is to look at the cross-lingual token embedding space. So what they have shown over here is a TSNE visualization of the cross-lingual token embeddings. These embeddings are obtained by encoding programming language tokens into transcoder's lookup table. They show the embeddings of C++, Java and Python keywords. If you see over here, the keywords of the different language are quite close in the embedding space. For instance, except in Python and catch in Java and C++ are both used to catch exceptions are matched in a very similar embeddings. Similarly, the integer types are captured over here in a similar embedding space. Similarly, the same phenomenon is observed for implementation of maps, which is map dictionary over here. Similarly, you can also have the exceptions which are captured over here as IO exception, IO error. So in this model, what we can see is that in the cross-lingual embedding space, it is able to match the similar or semantic meaning of each of these keywords into a very or similar meaning keywords in very close embedding space. Let us look at some of the failed translations from the transcoder model. The first two examples are C++ function converted to Java. So the not operator in C++ works on Boolean and integers. It returns true if the integer is positive. But in Java, the not operator only works on Boolean and not integer, and hence it fails the unit test over here. Similarly, the math.power method in Java for a variable n raised to the power of 2 returns a double which should be cast to an int if you were to truly convert the C++ function. So hence there is an error over here also. Similarly, in this conversion from Python to Java, the math.min is a Java function but does not take as input a double array but a pair of double. Hence again there is a failure in the unit test. So these are some of the examples of failed translations in transcoder. In summary, this paper has demonstrated that fully unsupervised translation can be achieved to translate from one programming language to the other. The transcoder model is able to successfully manage to grasp complex patterns specific to each language and translate them to other languages. Fully unsupervised method can outperform commercial systems that leverage rule-based methods and advanced programming knowledge. So I'm quite excited for this work, and I'm waiting for them to release the source code so that I can try out and test out with some examples. This is my first video where I've explained a research paper. If you like such videos, press the like button, subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I create a new video. See you in the next video. Bye.